Chapter 4. Reconstruction. The rebuilding began the next morning. The men gathered early, before the frost had fully lifted from the ground. Fresh timber had been hauled in from the eastern ridge, and now lay in pale stacks beside the charred remains. The original foundation had held, blackened but stubbornly intact, and Elias insisted they build upon it rather than clear it away. "The church is not replaced," he had told them. "It is restored." The word had tasted hopeful when he had said it. He was no longer certain why. Hammering began shortly after sunrise. The rhythm spread through the town in steady pulses, measured, almost musical. Sawdust drifted through the air in soft spirals, a gentler echo of the ash that still clung to the ground. Elias removed his coat and joined the labor without ceremony. He carried beams across his shoulders, steadied ladders, and drove nails until the skin of his palms burned and his forearms trembled. The physical strain brought a kind of relief. Work narrowed the world to manageable pieces. Lift, measure, align, strike. There was comfort in tasks that required no theology. The younger men responded first to his involvement. Thomas, eager and watchful, worked beside him with quiet intensity, glancing often for approval he pretended not to seek. An older carpenter corrected Elias's grip once, then gave a brief nod when the adjustment was made without protest. Women passed through the site carrying water and strips of linen for cleaning hands. Widow Mercer oversaw the sewing of a new altar cloth beneath the thin shade of a tree, white fabric stretched carefully across her lap. A group of children gathered discarded wood scraps and, with grave seriousness, attempted to carve small crosses using dull knives that were clearly unequal to the task. The town moved like a body, relearning how to stand. By midday, the skeletal outline of new walls had risen from the old blackened stone. Fresh timber gleamed against the soot-dark ground. Someone began humming a hymn, soft at first, then louder when another voice joined. Elias recognized the tune immediately. "Great is thy faithfulness." The words formed in his mind before he could stop them. "Morning by morning, new mercies I see." He drove another nail. The lyric passed through him without landing. They paused at noon to pray over the foundation. The townspeople gathered in a rough circle, hats removed, heads bowed. Elias stood at the center where the altar would one day rest again. For a moment he simply looked at the upturned faces around him. They watched with an attention that almost felt physical. He closed his eyes. "Lord," he began, his voice steady from long habit, "you have seen this place in ruin. You have seen the hearts of those who labor here. We ask that you dwell among us once more." The wind moved lightly through the rising beams. "Bless this foundation. Strengthen what has been weakened. Restore what has been broken." He let the silence linger a breath longer than necessary, as though something might answer in the narrow space between sentences. Nothing did. "Amen." The word fell cleanly into the air. The people echoed it with varying degrees of conviction. When they dispersed, Elias remained where he was, his palm resting lightly against the fresh wood. The timber was warm from the sun, solid, real. He felt nothing beyond that. No inward confirmation, no quiet assurance. Only the distant continuation of hammering somewhere behind him. Work, he realized, was the only thing that kept his thoughts from turning inward. By late afternoon, fatigue softened tempers and loosened tongues. Elias began making visits through the town. He passed the tavern on his return toward the construction site. Music drifted from inside, not the low murmur of evening drink, but something livelier. A fiddle played in full daylight. The door swung open and a man stepped out, blinking against the sun as though emerging from sleep. His cheeks were flushed, his shirt only half unbuttoned. "Pastor," the man said quickly, "fine day for work." "It is," Elias replied. "Are you well?" "Never better." The answer came too fast. The man's eyes held a brightness that bordered on fever. "Restless since the fire," the tavern keeper said from the doorway behind him, not unkindly. "People don't like sitting with ashes too long." Elias turned toward him. "Restless?" The tavern keeper shrugged. "A man starts wondering what holds him upright once he sees beams fall like that." He gestured loosely toward the church site. "Some look for comfort, some look for distraction." "Distraction," Elias repeated. The tavern keeper held his gaze. "Eat and drink," he said lightly, "for tomorrow we die." The line was delivered almost playfully. Borrowed. Elias felt something tighten in his chest. "Well, that's not how that verse ends," he said quietly. The tavern keeper gave a small, knowing half-smile. "Most verses end the way a man needs them to." Elias did not respond. But the words followed him all the way back to the rising frame of the church. Night came slowly. His muscles ached pleasantly from the day's labor, and the physical exhaustion should have guaranteed sleep. Instead, wakefulness sharpened as darkness settled. The book lay where he had left it. He had moved it to the edge of the desk, as though distance alone might weaken its presence. It had not. He lit a candle. "I must understand what I invited," he murmured. He opened the book. The illustrations no longer shocked him in the same way. They had not changed, yet something in him had shifted. Where before he had only seen blasphemy, now he perceived intention, structure, a kind of terrible coherence. Saints bow not in fear, but in surrender. Demons were rendered not as grotesque beasts, but as figures of unsettling composure despite their obscene poses. He turned another page. A passage caught his eye. "In the stripping away of illusion, the soul stands naked and unashamed." The word naked lingered. Another line followed. "Hunger reveals what fullness conceals." His pulse quickened. He closed the book. The room felt warmer than it had before. After that, sleep came quickly. Too quickly. Suddenly, he stood again in the sanctuary. Not burned, not rebuilt. Suspended between. And she was there, closer than before. Her skin held that same ember-warm glow, as though heat lived just beneath the surface of her. Her hair fell loose around her back. The curve of her shoulders caught a light he could not locate. She did not approach at first. She circled him slowly, her bare feet silent against the boards. "You build with such devotion," she said softly. Her voice seemed to travel along his spine. He tried to speak. Nothing came. "You raise walls for a god who will not enter." She stepped closer, close enough that he felt the warmth of her presence before her shadow reached him. He closed his eyes and tried to pray. Nothing formed. Her breath touched the side of his neck. Not hot, not cold, simply there. "You labor to drown thought," she continued, hammering over questions, singing over silence. Her fingers hovered just above his arm. His skin reacted as though she had already touched him. "You believe desire is your enemy," she murmured, "but it is the only honest thing left in you." Heat surged low in his body, immediate and unwelcome. Shame followed close behind. He tried to step away. His feet would not move. She came to stand before him. Her gaze held no mockery, only attention. "You are lonely," she said. The word stuck deeper than it should have. "You rebuild for them," she whispered. "But who rebuilds you?" This time her fingers brushed lightly against his wrist. The contact was brief, electric. His breath caught sharply. Her hand moved slowly up along his forearm until her palm rested lightly over his heart. "And yet," she said softly, "your body responds to what is real." The sanctuary darkened at the edges. His pulse thundered beneath her hand. For one terrible moment he felt himself leaning toward her. The realization horrified him. She smiled faintly. "Eat," she whispered. Her lips hovered near his ear. "Drink." Elias woke violently. The room was dark. His body burned with shame and confusion. Sweat dampened his shirt, and his breath came uneven and sharp. He pressed his hand to his chest where her palm had rested in the dream. His pulse was still racing. He felt both violated and complicit. What unsettled him most was not the dream itself. It was the lingering warmth. He rolled onto his side and gripped the edge of the mattress. "God forgive me," he whispered hoarsely. The darkness did not answer. Beneath the horror, beneath the shame, a smaller, more dangerous truth surfaced. He wanted to sleep again, because sleep was where she was.